Venice submerged. Glaciers disappear, shutting off the flow of fresh water to billions more. Northern Canada becomes one of the planet's most bountiful agricultural zones, while a beach in Scandinavia could be the next Saint-Tropez. The entire West Antarctic ice sheet could collapse, sending sea levels rising even further. This could be our world, plus 4 degrees.
At 4 degrees, we really do begin to see a planet which is completely unrecognizable from the one we know today. We will see the possible drying up of some of the most important rivers in the world, and this will endanger the survival of tens and even hundreds of millions of people.
If the planet is ever 4 degrees warmer, one of its great rivers will be self-destructing at both ends, from a high mountain glacier to the Indian Ocean. Locals call it Mother Ganges, the holiest river in India, perhaps in all the world. Himalayan rivers are the wellspring of life for over 1 billion people in China, Nepal, and India. Climate scientists predict India could be one of the countries where the impact of global warming takes its greatest toll. Unless we begin to slow global warming in fewer than 4 decades, the Ganges could be a river fighting for its very life. The battle will be fought here, in the vast crystalline ice fields of the Himalayan glaciers, the planet's largest store of fresh water outside of the polar ice caps. Himalayan glaciers are receding, the fastest of any in the world. Swami Sundaranand, an 80-year-old holy man known as the Swami who clicks, has been photographing the glaciers above the Ganges for 50 years.
1956 में सर्वप्रथम
The first photo I took of the glacier was in 1956.
ये मैंने गंगोत्री के
After 1962, I started to worry about the changes I was seeing in the glacier.
1965 में
I went to this glacier on foot in 1965, to the base of Meru Peak.
और उसके बाद 15 वर्ष के बाद जब गया
When I went back after 15 years, the glacier had vanished.
क्योंकि मैं पर्यटक बना
When I saw the glacier receding, I became very worried and started crying. If the holy Ganges is not in existence in the future, the entire world will seem like it has become an orphan.
The Swami's trove of icescapes documents 50 years of change to this magnificent glacier. Now, NASA satellite imagery confirms the rate of loss. Side by side, the high and low-tech images tell a similar story, one that spells danger for the future. If current trends continue, the next 100 years could wreak havoc on agriculture, hydroelectric power, transportation, mining, and wildlife all along the Ganges. At first, the melt might unleash unprecedented floods. But then, seasonal water scarcity and famine could strike year-round once the glacier vanishes completely. At the current rate of loss, it's estimated there will be no more glaciers in the Himalayas by the year 2035. dramatically reducing the flow of fresh water to more than 1 billion people. At 4 degrees of warming, sea level could be rising by 1 meter as the world's great coastal cities confront catastrophe. Among them, the largest and most densely populated metropolis in the United States. Armed with elevation maps and climate forecasts, Professor of Geophysics Malcolm Bowman and one of his graduate students plot the course future flooding could take through New York's financial district.
What will happen, there could be massive flooding in parts of New York City, parts of Manhattan here, especially the lower part. We could say that could be the flood line for a Category 3 hurricane hitting at high tide, a direct hit on New York City.
Even a Category 2 or 3 storm could submerge the financial capital of the world. If a megastorm hits on top of a major sea level rise, it will mean destruction on an epic scale. Parts of the city could be 7.6 meters underwater. One thing is clear, unless we limit the impact of global warming, major coastal cities will have to spend many billions of dollars to protect themselves. Various kinds of flood barriers are already on the drawing board, including colossal sea gates that can be opened and closed when a storm surge hits. New York would have to build 3 massive sea gates. One around the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, blocking the entrance to the harbor, another behind Staten Island, and a third blocking the entrance to Long Island Sound. Anticipating a storm surge, massively powerful hydraulic engines rotate gates weighing thousands of tons, 9 meters out of the water. These sea barriers on the Thames cost Great Britain more than $1 billion, but they're protecting London from sea surges more and more frequently every year. If the world warms 5 degrees, 2 massive uninhabitable zones spread into once temperate regions of the northern and southern hemispheres. Snowpack and aquifers that feed the world's great cities, Los Angeles, Cairo, Lima, Bombay, are drying out. Climate refugees number in the hundreds of millions. This could be our world plus 5 degrees.
I think in a world which is much warmer than now, 5 degrees, it's going to be inconceivable that human civilization can withstand that kind of a climatic shock.
Now we enter the twilight zone of climate change, a nightmare vision of life on Earth. If the world warms by 6 degrees, from a distance, the oceans may appear bright blue, but they are marine wastelands. Deserts march across continents like conquering armies. Natural disasters become common events. Some of the world's great cities are flooded and abandoned. This could be our world plus 6 degrees.
Warmings of 6 degrees over longer time periods have been associated with some of the most devastating mass extinctions which have ever taken place. So it's certainly fair to assume that if temperatures soar by 6 degrees within less than a century, that we're going to face nothing less than a global wipeout.
6 degrees of warming has been called the doomsday scenario. Our lives would never be the same again. But it's not all doom and gloom yet. Most experts believe we can awaken from the nightmare. Right now, the average temperature has only risen 0.8 degrees Celsius. But we don't have much time. 2 degrees hotter puts us on the brink of runaway global warming, when it could dramatically disrupt how we live our lives.
The scientific reality seems to be that we have to, if at all possible, peak global emissions within the next 10 years, or by 2015. And this, of course, is an extremely tight timetable. We're talking about turning around the energy supply for most of humanity within the space of a decade.
For anyone looking for solutions, there's no place like home. For Amory Lovins, solutions start with efficiency. Reducing the use of energy that produces CO2 emissions.
I think once people understand that climate protection puts money back in your pocket because you don't have to buy all that fuel, political resistance is going to melt faster than glaciers. Do you see that little red light down in the corner?
Lovins is a sort of new age meter reader, hell-bent on killing wasted watts.
If you have all kinds of appliances, you know, your TV, your VCR, your DVD, etc., that have that little light on,
yes,
they're using electricity. It's called vampire loads.
109 watts, almost $60 a year just sitting there turned off.
If every household in the U.S. killed off their wasted vampire loads, we could eliminate at least 18 coal-fired power plants. Lovins doesn't just talk the talk. He lives in a house he designed without a furnace in Aspen, Colorado, where temperatures in winter routinely drop below -17 Celsius.
We're at 7,100 feet here. It can go to -47 F, get frost any day of the year, and we can get 39 days of continuous midwinter cloud.
Lovin's house is a mix of high technology and homespun common sense. Solar units on the roof produce more electricity than the house uses. The entire house runs on just 120 watts, slightly more than a single light bulb.
Energy efficiency is the biggest, fastest, cheapest way to solve the climate problem, to save money, and to make a safer, richer, fairer, cooler world.
Fusion. They're building a fusion reactor modeled on the single best power plant in the solar system, the sun. Harnessing that same power could mean a virtually limitless and self-sustaining source of energy without producing any greenhouse gases.
This energy lights up the universe, powers most of the stars in the universe. So what we're trying to do here is to replicate the same process on Earth and use this amount of energy to produce electricity.
It won't be easy. With the volatile gases involved, engineers can't work directly on the reactor's core. They depend on a new generation of robot, some of the smartest and most skillful ever invented to work in such extreme conditions. The core of the reactor will be nearly 10 times hotter than the sun. A powerful magnetic field contains the superhot plasma and prevents it from melting through the reactor's walls. Even if it works, and there's no guarantee, the reactor won't produce commercial electricity for at least another 30 years. As ambitious as it may be, fusion may appear relatively down to earth. Imagine outer space filled with a cosmic fleet of mirrors. One current research project estimates that 1 million mirrors, each about 3 feet across, could block out enough of the sun's heat to lower the Earth's temperature.
It's no good sitting around hoping that someone's going to invent some fantastical new source of free energy or a solar mirror, which is going to reflect enough of the sun's rays to keep us tolerably cool. The reality is we have to deal with what we've got, and we have to do it within 10 years.
The world's appetite for energy remains voracious. Our carbon footprint is staggering. As global warming escalates, it also accelerates. At some point, climate change could take on a life of its own, and global warming would become a runaway train. The only question is, now that we know about it, what are we going to do? Even the worst-case scenarios of 6 degrees won't mean the end of all life on Earth. But the planet after extreme global warming would be radically different from the life we know today.